Barrister, I'll start with you. What do you think are the possible causes of our abysmal economy? Like during in 2015, we had our debt was, I think, 12 trillion naira. Today, under Tinubu government, okay, between, I think started with Buhari, between Buhari and Tinubu now that we are today, the debt, our national debt has skyrocketed to 120 trillion naira. Just within a span of 2015 to this time, today it is what, 9 years? Yes. Just 9 years, within 9 years, where I don't know how many percent in ratio can I don't want to go into calculating how many percent now, but my God, from 12 trillion to 120, this is over 1,000% increase to 120 trillion in debt. GDP, our GDP has risen from 200 and some, from 500. That was when we became during Jonathan, we became the largest economy in Africa at 500 billion. Today, our GDP, gross domestic product, is 200, is half of that 500, 250 billion. It basically means that we are, even at then, we were not producing that much. Today, it means that we are producing far less than we were producing then. Our consumption, of course, purchasing power has diminished. That is the implication. The purchasing power has diminished as well, because if the economy was, the GDP was 500 and now 250, it means the purchasing power has greatly diminished. Barrister, this is where we have found ourselves. Our economy is just nosediving, going fast, going down the steep, and we seem to have no end in sight. Everything seems to still continue in going haywire. Tinubu is not stepping on brakes at all. He just keeps spending on things that are not priority, wrong stuff. And the truth is, Nigeria is just going on. The brake, just like a vehicle that have lost control, that no longer, the brake has failed. That's exactly what Nigeria is facing right now. Barrister, please, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, it should not surprise anybody. The economy of Nigeria can be summed in one sentence: consumption. We're a consuming country, we're not a producing country. So what do you expect? And I have repeatedly said, even though I'm not an economist, common sense leads me to believe that the economy of a country is not radically different from the economy of a family: yourself, your wife, children, and dependents. If you persist in consuming whatever you have and not producing or having services to render, a time will come where you will not be able to sustain your consumption. Now, in Nigeria, we have a mono economy in the sense of oil that brings us money. That's about the biggest service we have to render: the product, oil. In recent time, and for a long time, there was virtually no investment in that sector. The sector has been coming down. Production, even by OPEC quarter, that we were allowed to do between 2.2 million and 2.2 million barrels of crude oil per day, we could not produce. It came down to officially to about 700 barrels per day. a lot of it was being stolen by people. So we have a situation where we are consuming a lot and not producing. So our earnings cannot keep up with our consumption. At the same time, and tragically, we have a rapidly growing population, massive. In fact, our population is about the highest growing in terms of this thing. How do you now have a situation where you have massive population growth against a contracting economy? You find the situation we are in now is there for everybody to see. It's not rocket science. Everybody can see what has brought us to the present day. In some time, we are even consuming the future, things that we will even produce, services that we render in the future, we are consuming them today. Remember, during Buhari's government, he sold our crude oil in advance. I mean, he collected money for crude oil that will be sold in advance. So we are consuming our future. How do you sustain that? It's not sustainable. Our government and those who are leading us are the culprit. The vast majority of Nigerians are not educated, so to speak. So if our elites and the government do not want to lead the way, there's no way out of it. We are in a deep hole where we cannot even bring ourselves by our bootstraps, because the hard work needed to do that is not there. And then you now come and have a system of government that will only exacerbate the situation. You have a system of government that requires massive outlay, financial outlay, to appease the politicians on all levels. And the politicians, when they are appeased, they give crumbs to their supporters. That is the kind of system we have, that we are masquerading as civil rule. So you have a combination of consumption, a bad system of government, bad actors, and lack of production, all helping to put Nigeria deeper into the hole instead of bringing us up. So that is the issue. If we want to come out of our present situation now, there have been suggestions here and there. I read somewhere where somebody said, why don't we call upon certain countries, call upon China or other countries, let them give us 30 trillion naira on our future oil production. And let's use the 30 trillion to rebuild the economy, rebuild the infrastructure, rebuild the industries that can bring employment and can enable us earn revenue to pay back. Now, on paper, you can see that there is a lot of sense in that, because we are in a deep hole. How do you bring yourself out? But knowing the system we operate, assuming for the sake of argument that you get 30 trillion loans from China and promise to, in the next 10 years, you will supply them crude oil. By the way, the Nigerian crude oil stock is valued about 600 trillion. So it is possible to do that. But just assuming for the sake of argument that today we obtained a loan of 30 trillion from China. Of course, you and me know that that money will never go to the purpose intended. It will still be siphoned, it will still be stolen, it will still be misapplied, it will still be spent recklessly. So we are in a difficult situation. And the only solution that can save us is a revolutionary approach, because that revolutionary approach will not affect one sector, it will affect everything. Without that, I don't see how we can pull ourselves out of the deep hole that we are inside now. That things will continue to go from bad to worse, because every successive government that comes, as we are seeing, becomes worse than the last one. Because you are going to maintain the politicians, you are going to maintain the privileges of the elites. Where do you get this thing? It's from the available funds. And then what is remaining is not enough to meet the rapidly expanding population in terms of education, in terms of healthcare, and other things, infrastructure. So that is the quagmire that we are inside.
Now, like you said earlier, economy, honestly, sometimes, if not even most times, is just a matter of common sense. Sometimes there are economies that does not need a professor in economics to define to you what it means, and that's why so many economists, specialists in economy, has failed in several. Look, I remember sometimes in the past, even in the US, where the renowned economists did some calculations and predicted the future and predicted this, especially during Donald Trump, prior to Donald Trump and during his or whatever. They all failed. They failed woefully, and it happens in Nigeria too. So that's why the problem is with all these specialists is that they seem to go by theory, go by the books. But honestly, economy is supposed to be something more practical than theory, because the dynamic of economy does not give it that leverage to actually operate in a blanket manner, and that is where common sense comes to play. And that is why even an illiterate can be a very good economist. So that is just economy is just a matter of that you don't need a professional to actually. Yeah, there are some areas that you need a professional to actually guide you and give you so. But when it comes to growing something, just a common sense, and that's just it. Why I decided to talk about it this way, because in case of some viewers may want to say, none of us have the pedigree to actually discuss economy. But it doesn't matter. Again, that's why I define it this way, because economy, anybody can discuss that and discuss it very, very brilliant and profile solution as well. Please, Shegun, take it up from there.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Speak.
Okay, very good. Okay, very good. Barrister and yourself have already summed it up properly, and unless we stop to consume and start to produce, it's going to be very difficult. How many countries, developed countries around the world, depend on governments to build the economy? That's the big question. And if the private sector is not allowed to thrive, it's going to be very difficult for the economy to stand on its own, especially in Nigeria. People are not secure. The kind of loans you get, the kind of pressure that you get on those loans, the working environment and the tax are quite heavy on local manufacturers and all that. You keep hearing them talk about it on TV and on radio, complaining about the kind of shrewd business environment where they work that makes it very difficult for them to thrive. Unless the government remove itself from the business of production entirely and hand it over to the private sector and support them the best way they can by providing the enabling environment for them, and of course with reduced tax and all that, it's going to be a bit difficult to move on. Barrister summed it up perfectly well. You borrow any money to build any economy, that money is going to end up in pockets. That's when your National Assembly will think about sharing some money for their wardrobe allowances and buying new cars and repairing the house of the VP, and of course increasing the salaries of people who do nothing other than to sit down and tell tales of lies. So it's going to be a bit difficult until we sit down and actually agree that this economy needs to be built. But it is not something that can be done immediately. The way I'm looking at it and the kind of people, the set of people that we have, don't seem to care, because all of these people have their business interests, not in Nigeria, but outside the shores of this country. And as long as they keep making their money outside, they would rather take whatever is inside here and take it outside. So that is my submission.
All right, thank you so much. Now, the truth is, we have a problem as Nigeria and Nigerians. We have this habit of not encouraging ours, our own. And we don't patronize our own. We rather patronize the outside products or outside companies. And that is one of the major problems we have. Now, you cannot grow economy without having to produce things yourself. We can't grow an economy by depending on outsiders, on getting things from people who are outside, from other countries. We have to learn to do things ourselves, not just to do things ourselves, but to encourage ourselves. Now, we all know what happened with Dangote, or what is happening with Dangote. Dangote has built a refinery. Since he finished building that refinery, taking off production has been a problem to him. Now, recently, CBN increased interest rates to 30%. Who does that? How will you survive as a business on 30% loan, interest on loan? How would you survive that? I am a businessman. I have borrowed money, so I can't imagine myself. But I couldn't have. I just know how. I can't borrow money to pay 30%. For God's sake, 30% interest. That's astronomical. That is outrageous. Why will you do that to a company? This is the first indigenous refinery. All we need is to all Nigerian leaders or Nigerian leadership is supposed to do is to encourage this man, the company, to grow. This is the first indigenous refinery, private refinery. Sorry, yeah, indigenous private refinery. Yet we seem to be sabotaging them. We're sabotaging Nigeria. The Nigerian government is sabotaging Dangote refinery by interest rate, sabotaging them by not giving them product, for God's sake. I can't believe that Dangote, our own has to go outside the country to source for crude oil. And even at that, OPEC is trying to frustrate them as well. They are not giving them that same crude oil. The bottleneck is becoming too much. That is the point. In Nigeria, the same thing. The head of, I think one of the top guys, the director, whatever, one of the directors, came out to voice about 2 or 3 weeks ago to vent his frustration on how they have their own problem with NNPC itself, NNPCL. They are just doing everything to frustrate that man, to frustrate that company. That is the point. 3 areas where Dangote is facing serious frustration. For God's sake, Dangote, we ought to encourage Dangote, but no. The powers that be who are benefiting from the dilapidation, from the backwardness where the oil industry is facing, the people who are benefiting from this backwardness don't want it to succeed. They are sabotaging it for personal interest, for selfish and rapacious interest. Nothing more. Look at now. Every country, I've said this before, I don't know why we don't copy the right things that will benefit us from other countries. We copy the West. We copy the West so much, but we copy things that are not beneficial to us, things that are detrimental to our interest, to us as Nigeria and Nigerians. But things that are good, some good traits or good dispositions, we don't copy those things. And one of those good stuff is this issue of patriotism. We don't have it. All government, go to Europe, go to America. you find that their government, all government institutions use locally made vehicles. It is, I don't know if it's a law, but I don't know if it's embedded in law. Honestly, that's what I don't know. But if it's embedded in law, that's understandable. But I doubt if it is the issue of law. I think it's just the issue of policy. It may not be. If you buy foreign made of, I don't think any government, any Western government who chooses to buy Western made, foreign made vehicles for official purpose, for government purpose, will be committing crime. I don't think so. So I think it's just a policy thing. So why can't Nigeria copy such thing and make it a policy that no government institution, I don't know, we did it those days with Peugeot. Why can't you go back to that same whatever? At least those days we used to have so many, we had this patronage before, even though we still had foreign vehicles, but at least there was this level of patronage, very reasonable level of patronage for Peugeot vehicles.
Let me say that
today, everything, all those things have disappeared, for God's sake. You see governors, state government spending tens of billions of naira. There was a time of 150 billion naira for vehicles, imported vehicles, for God's sake, for government officials, legislators, commissioners, DG. For God's sake, why will Nigerian government, why will any form of government, either local, state, or federal, ever spend money on imported vehicles? Why will our president, for God's sake, all other presidents, West, especially West, that we always copy, their heads of states, their heads of states, prime ministers or whatever, they always, all of them, they use their locally made, their president, they use their locally made vehicles. But for where? Nigeria, our president, including I remember during the Obasanjo, he said Mercedes, for God's sake. You see our police, for God's sake, the police IG commissioners using BMW. For God's sake, we have locally made vehicles right now. We have Innocent and so much Innocent, right? And other. What happens? We can actually, these vehicles can be customized. After all, the BMWs, the Mercedes that the presidents and the heads of agencies, government agencies in Nigeria are using, some of them are customized. All you need to do is give the manufacturer your specification. Give Innocent your specification, and they will manufacture based on your need or desire. For God's sake, why can't we patronize our own? Look at this airpiece, for God's sake. Look at what happened during airpiece time. Okay, I think some Nigerians, they came out, at least they encouraged the man and gave him some support. And the government, as far as I'm concerned, even though they did their best, they tried, but they didn't do enough to help that airpiece. Even at this point, as we are speaking now, even the airpiece thing is still, that route, that London, Lagos-London route is still under threat. They have not gone off, that threat is not off their lane yet. They are still trying to frustrate them. What is the government doing to do all this? That's the problem. We don't encourage our own. We always value anything that is foreign than what we have inside. All we need to do, all the government need to do is to encourage the local manufacturers of anything that we're manufacturing in Nigeria. Let us even start with the vehicles. Why can't you make it a policy, ban all state government, local government institutions of using foreign-made vehicles? Start from there. That will help our economy. These are the reasons, major reasons why our economy is not doing well. That's why we have our GDP just plummeting. That is just it. Barrister, you are itching. You've been itching to say something. Yes, please go ahead.
I was itching to follow up on what you were just saying, because it still comes back to what I was saying between consumption and production. It's not as if Nigeria does not have a production base. We had the production base. If you take the Aba axis, if you take the Lagos-Ogun axis, Kaduna and Kano, these are production bases in Kaduna. Shoes and other products were produced from Aba since I was born. The Lagos Ogun axis has industrial production. The textile factories were there in Kaduna and Kano. And Kano had always been a manufacturing hub. What happened? Why have all this closed? Now you go back to what is called IMF and World Bank conditionalities. One of the IMF conditionalities is the liberalization of imports. You do not increase tariff. You allow everything to be imported. And once that condition is here, what happens? If Abba produces new shoe, the cost of production is factored into the price that will go into the shoes. Then you now bring in Tokumbo shoes that are selling at 1/4 of that price. So in an economy that people are already struggling, nobody will buy that product. People will buy the cheaper product that is second-hand or third use that is brought from abroad. The same thing textiles in Kaduna happened. They were producing textile materials here, but what happened? All manner of second-hand textiles were flooded into the country under policies of liberalization of importation. So,
and hold on, sorry to cut you short, Barrister. You see, that is the problem. This is where that we discussed this on our previous show, on this show previously. This is the point. That is why we have to detangle ourselves from IMF, from the West, for God's sake. Why do we have to remain enslaved to these people? Let us, unfortunately, we have the wrong person as our president right now, because he is that is why I don't know. God has to take this man away from Nigeria, from being our president, because he has there's nothing that will make Tinubu to do the right thing. He has a lot of baggage that the West will always use as leverage against him. They will use his background, his foundation, everything that is bad about him to blackmail him. And because of that, Tinubu can never, even if he becomes a born again, he repents today to do the right thing. He cannot, because he has so much baggage in his background that the West knows so much about. And that is why they are using it. They will continue to use it against him. Honestly, we need that man to be out of this. We need Tinubu. Honestly, we desperately need Tinubu to be out. Otherwise, Nigeria will, whatever we talk about, whatever we do, no matter the solution we profile, he cannot do it because he cannot do it. That is just the basic truth. The man is just a puppet to the West. That man cannot rule Nigeria. All right. There's nothing he can do about it, because that guy is being blackmailed. They are holding so much against him. Even we that are Nigerians, we know so much that to actually pull him down. Not to talk of the West that are they are so scientific with knowing someone's background. They're so scientific when it comes to investigating someone or whatever. So it takes them nothing to actually find out everything about you and show your scorecard to you, sort of. So that is the point. Unfortunately, we all know the solution to this problem, but the solution is something that even the current president cannot step on, because he's working for he has other people that he's working for. He's protecting other people's interests, not Nigeria and Nigerians. That is just the truth. Sorry, I cut you short, Barrister. Finish up so that we can go to...
I was going to say that in as much as I wholeheartedly agree that Tinubu has no solution to a problem, I also wholeheartedly agree that he is a product of Western imperialism. The problem of Nigeria is beyond Tinubu, in the sense that the whole world economy is skewed against third world countries. For us to come out of it, number one, you have to have your politics right. When you have your politics right and attain national unity, you can then confront the West. But without settling our political issues and attaining national unity, we cannot fight an external battle. And that economic issue is really an external battle because these people are benefiting from our situation. They are looking at us, and if we want to take a step in the right direction, they are going to react. They are going to press us down. So in order to fight them, we have to put our house in order. We have to achieve settled political unity before we can fight as one people, as one country. If we don't do that,
you see that good. You see good. Look, you see that is where my own opinion comes to play. Our leaders cannot do anything. Well, all this what you just suggested as solution to the problem can never ever be can never come on a platter of gold. We have to force it. And that is where, look, the issue of we have to first of all put our house in order before IMF. Look, one thing can solve this whole problem. We can use one stone to kill two birds. And that brings us to this issue of we all as citizens taking our destiny in our hands and facing our leaders. When they are under pressure, we'll be using all this problem, all these things you just enumerated, all of them will fall in place. Because when the moment they are under pressure, they will be compelled. They will be on the run and be compelled. The ones that are patriotic, they will be compelled to come together and say, okay, look, we are all in trouble. They will be faced with common problem. And that common problem is the threat to the unity of the country, to threat to their lives. So at that juncture, they will be compelled to actually organize themselves, and at the same time, they detangle themselves, detangle Nigeria from the way. So it will take one stone to kill two birds. But that one stone is our problem now. Honestly, the major problem now, because we have come to a point where we just need one thing. Just like you said, I don't know who said it, there was it Shegun or you that mentioned one person, just one person to actually start something, to just give it a shot, and for others to follow. And that will actually give us a break forth. We break us forth into at least a relative reprieve or relief from the shackles of this bad governance. Shegun, please come in.
Oh, well, there's actually nothing else to add to it. Breaking free and breaking forth, we start from home. We need to agree amongst ourselves that we need to be free. If we don't agree that we need to be free and break off from this enslavement, it's going to be very difficult for us. We can't speak all the English in the world, raise hell and whatever. As long as we are under this control, there's nothing really we can do. Look at what the president of Burkina Faso said the other time. He said it is time for them to be free from their colonialists, that they don't want anything to do with them anymore. No more free food, no more free funds. They are going to be raising their own funds themselves. And they're going about it well.
Yeah.
Why? The first thing he's doing, the other day they showed him on TV. He went about trying to fight the terrorists who are terrorizing some of the villages around Burkina Faso, rounding them up. And one of the claims is that there's no point keeping those terrorists and putting them in prison. There is no reform for anybody who is fighting the government. Of course, we all understand that these people are sponsored, just like we have them in Nigeria here, cause the destabilization so that we will be dependent. It will be very difficult for us to go to farms, for instance, to farm. So once we can't farm, it means we will depend on importation. You see, and it seems the government is not interested in itself to fight any banditry. So whatever it is that you are trying to do, you will find that at the end of the day, the government itself is actually behind it, because you find that when these people are arrested, they are told, they tell the security men to fly them to Abuja, and from Abuja they disappear, and nobody gets to hear anything.
I don't know if you were the one. I don't know. Okay, I think I forwarded it to Barris or whatever. I read a report about. Look, anyway, that wasn't a surprise to me. I think I've always known that this issue of terrorism and insecurity in Nigeria and Africa in general, that the West has had a hand in it. It's not just only our leaders. Our leaders have hand in it, and the West too. It's in collusion with the West that are actually destroying us. They don't want us to whatever. So please go ahead. You sure going there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here. It's true. Well, not too long ago, in the same Burkina Faso that we're talking about, was the president not assassinated? And
Yeah,
did the West start to calm down? No, they used his best friend. So it's all about us and our mentality. When you're trying to build a country, there are people who are there thinking about something else. They're thinking about what they're going to make immediately. Nobody cares about the generality of the people. Nobody cares about every other person. They care about only themselves, their family, and their friends. And that's one of the reasons why we continue to have all of these problems. Like I keep saying, and I will repeat here, until we stand up as a united nation and agree that we have an issue and tackle the issue as a united force, as a united front, we're just going to keep running around like headless chicken. And these people will continue to control our economy. As long as they have some of these loans to dangle before our eyes and we keep going for them, they will continue to control us. Whoever it is that is put there will continue to bite from these carrots and continue to put us in problems. So until we agree that we have an issue and break away from all of this continued sense of colonialism, it's going to be very difficult for us to stand out. I'm afraid.
All right. Thank you so much, Barrister. You have any other thing to add to it? If you don't, we'll move to the next topic.
Yes, I will just add and take you back to the in the immediate aftermath of return to removal of colonial rule in Africa. If you recall, the Western powers deceived many African and third world countries under ideological grounds. They sponsored ideological movements in Africa. The Soviet bloc sponsored ideological movements. Take the case of Angola. Why the West was sponsoring Jonas Savimbi, the Eastern bloc was sponsoring NATO. So there was division within the country. But in the West, for instance, all of them are united. They want to exploit the third world countries. There's unity among the Western countries. Yeah. That it is in our interest to press these people down and exploit them. So if ourselves here, we don't recognize that, if we don't recognize the unity of purpose, it's important for us to face the challenges. We are going to have serious problems. And recognizing that we first have to sort out our own house. Nobody goes to fight when his household is in disarray. Let's settle our political issue to achieve political stability here, because this itself is a destabilizing factor. The politics we're doing now, the means of coming to power and retaining power and marshalling and disposing of resources is a subject of serious contention in Nigeria, and is bringing disunity, is bringing disaffection. If we don't sort it out, we cannot face a foreign front or another front that is attacking both of us. We will have problems. So we have to recognize, enlighten our people that, look, we have even what is an existential threat, because we are going down, we are not going forward. If we don't realize this in time, these people would have achieved what they want. Keep them perpetually like that. Neocolonialism now is worse than the actual colonialism that we suffered. The only difference being that it is our black-skinned people that are wearing agbada or wearing this and driving these exotic cars and holding the army, holding the police and the instruments of power, as against the white people that were doing. That's the only difference. So we have to realize that, look, we have to take our destiny in our hands. But how do we go about that? Settle our internal differences and then move forward as one nation.
Now, you see, my problem, my solution again is, you and I know settling our internal, look, that will never ever occur on a peaceful manner. Let me be frank with you. Settling our internal differences is so, our internal difference is too complex for us to actually find a common ground. The only way we can come to a consensus is when this thing is done under pressure. That is
It can be done. I'm not talking about this, how it will be done, but it should be done. One faction, the progressive faction, must dominate. Just like in Angola, the NATO faction came ahead of the Savimbi that was supported by the West. They are the ones in charge of Angola till today, and they were able to project the position of Angola. But to have these contending issues without settling them one way or another, whether violently or peacefully, one way or another, the contending internal issues must be settled before we can move forward. If they are not settled, we leave ourselves to be exploited.
All right.